because of my opinion, how the world is, which is always on the outside, going from inside out instead of outside in, or simply being inside, we need help to learn how to reconnect. So we need people to help us, to guide us, to facilitate that reconnection somehow. Sometimes it's just books. We read a book and then something flashes, we have a spark, and we start that reconnection. Sometimes it's a discussion with a friend, sometimes it's a dream. Everybody has different ways of learning how to reconnect with their inner guidance.
Listen to the vibes.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes. And I have here Miss Andrea Petrutz. Did I say it right?
Yes, you did. Hello.
All right. So she is into co-empowerment coaching. And so we're going to get to know her and have a great conversation. So let's start this off. Andrea, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, thank you for your invitation, Kyle. I come from Romania, and this is what you and I were talking about before we're starting this. And well, I love people. I'm a lover of people since I was born. I thought that I was a grumpy kid at some point, but my dad says no, because I have some pictures since I was little. But he confirmed that I was always a happy kid. So that's nice, because it reminds me of the daughter that I have now. It runs in the family, I guess. Joking, she is she, and I am I. And I had for me, a very interesting journey. I know you and I were talking about spirituality a bit before joining here in this conversation, and spirituality actually has been a very important part of my life. I say that it has been a huge support for me. And because of the experiences that I had as a child before I was 7 years old, and then all the other things happening in my life, I always looked to other people, to communities, families, friends, whatever I had around me, and also my inner life and what was going on in my family, to understand, what is there? Is there a higher power? Is there an old man in the sky sitting on a throne? All sorts of things. And by living life, growing up in Romania, first during communism, before 1989, I was born in 1981, and then in Romania, watching the transition and all of that, the so-called democracy, which I'm telling you is not, but anyway. And then I got married, I have 2 boys, and as life happens, I got through all sorts of challenges that I had to learn and go through. And I had, let's say, danced a bit with suicidal ideology at some point. And I got myself out of that for a single reason. And that is a promise that I made to myself. So my mom died in 1992. And as everybody around me tried to, figure out what to do, because my mom was like a sunshine and she would keep everybody together. And after she died, everybody started going their own way. I was suffering a lot. And I realized even before she died of cancer, and in just 2 months, less than 2 months after her diagnosis. So somehow in me, something got triggered to that level of, I got to take care of myself, because these people around me, they can barely take care of themselves. So that co-empowerment idea came from that moment in 1992 when I lost my mom. And I was like, okay, girl, you got to take care of yourself. And everything that happened after that moment taught me how to lead myself through life and how to separate my own feelings, emotions, and pain from other people. I thought of others first and me last. And it worked well until that day of thinking of taking my own life while having 2 very young children. And the promise that I'm talking about is, after my mom died, I said, I am not gonna die when my children are less than 18 years old. I wanna see my children growing up, be on their own, and I can do whatever I want, but until then, I have to fight. So I pulled myself out of out of those thoughts by doing that. And luckily, I had people who believed in me when it was hard for me. And I started learning about self-love, about how to love myself, take care of myself bit by bit. And I made choices that this time helped me so much. And I said, okay, I gotta do something so I have relationships that can hold me, empower me, support me, healthy relationships. So I gotta see what I haven't learned in my life. And in 2015, that's when step by step, I started going on this journey of deeper transformation, deeper change, and really taking agency for my life, and finding people like Dr. Bruce Lipton and reading his books and understanding what he did to change his life, and all of these things. So that's how I found my love, the men I came in Canada for, and who I have a very beautiful family. And leadership and co-empowerment have become the things that lead my life, my business, and everything that I do.
It's amazing that I meet people like you, that we all kind of share that same mentality, where at one time we were ready to give up, and then something just gets triggered in your mind, says, I got to keep going. But you also mentioned how you always worried about everybody else and you last. That's all of us that I talk to or do the same thing. And I think it's because we don't want to focus on our own problems, that we focus on everybody else's. And
Yeah,
so we go deeper and deeper into an abyss while trying to lift others up and trying to love yourself. Why is it so difficult for people to love themselves?
well, I ask myself too, like, why is it easier for me? Even sometimes it's easier for me to love a stranger. It was before I realized these things. It was easier to love a stranger than really take care of a loved one, and then really take care of me. Uh, one thought that comes, one idea is that we don't know how valuable we are. We don't know how to appreciate ourselves, because love and appreciation come together, in my opinion. And because of how life and life is a beautiful thing. It's not life, it's the experiences we had with other people that somehow put those beliefs into our subconscious that I'm not worthy of being loved. I'm not even worthy of loving myself. I'm not worthy of receiving love, not even from myself. I am, then maybe there's shame, guilt, moments where somebody, I wouldn't say cursed us, although I've been cursed too. But when we are bullied or anything, it's just like it's this thing, like somebody has a hammer and keeps hammering instead of helping you create that art by, I guess, who was that, Michelangelo, that beautiful David statue, right?
Right.
In which you are a gifted person, but like somebody is really hammering and destroying everything, including the seed of you, and that's where you're like, I am not lovable. So
Yeah.
why would I love myself if I believe I am not lovable? This reminds me of one image that I keep telling people about, of how we get to suicidal thoughts, how we go into that abyss you're talking about, and how we actually can reframe that and transform that situation and empower ourselves. And I talk about a balloon, imagining that we are people living in a balloon, and there's inner pressure. The inner pressure means how I see myself, and how I see myself when the balloon is around me and not very close to me, like somebody's pushing it. So when there's a lot of space around me, it means that I see myself in the right light. I see myself as worthy, as somebody to be appreciated. I love myself. I care for myself. When these things happen, then whatever other people say, it doesn't affect you. But if you don't have that, then whatever others say about you, you're going to take it in, and then the bubble, that balloon, keeps pressing and pressing and pressing so much, and the pressure becomes so hard that you feel like either somebody is killing you or you want to kill yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think this is how I think about it.
You know what else I find amazing is that you could have 100 people in your life tell you how amazing you are and how much they love you and how great you are and you're talented, and they can say all these great things, and then you have one person come up and say something negative to you, and so many people will take in all, that's all they hear is the negative, and they haven't heard all the rest of the good stuff.
Yeah, and that's interesting. It happened to me too. And it happens because, and this is my idea about why victims are smelled so easily by aggressors. It's like we have an Achilles heel,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like it has hormones that some people can smell. And that Achilles heel is actually what we have created, or what different experiences have dug, like digging trenches deeper and deeper and deeper. And all it takes for one person to be like a magnet that it comes like this, just sticks to, and you're done. Again, no matter what other people say, but if just one person has this kind of magnet with your hole, and it fills that hole by bringing something, it doesn't matter if it's dark, if it's nasty, but if it fills that hole and it's like giving you a conviction, they say that I am special, but this person really is giving me what I needed to hear, what I believe that I'm not, so it's like, it's feeding exactly what you fed yourself. So I'm thinking of a metaphor here, maybe like oil and water, like they do mix, but there has to be a certain condition. So it's like you have one kind of material, and other people try to tell you and bring you something beautiful to help your material shine. But when somebody else has something else that you resonate with, boom, that's better than the thing that you don't resonate with, although it will be better for you. It's odd, and it's because we've been traumatized. I believe all of us, more or less, we've had adverse childhood experiences, all sorts of experiences. If we believe that we live multiple lives, we can say that there are things coming from another life. If we don't believe that, that's okay, but there are still things happening to us we are not aware of, and they pile up, and we figure them out, we discover about them only in certain circumstances, if we are aware. Sometimes it's so obvious for you, for instance, but it wouldn't be obvious for me, who is living that thing. That's why I think we need each other. We need reflection to help us understand these moments and push through or change.
And I've told this so many times on the show already, but I continue to say it over and over again, because maybe somebody's watching this or listening to this for the first time. But I was molested when I was little, and I think that was earth-shattering, because it was someone I trusted. It's somebody very close. I'm not going to say who, but it really, I guess, took the air out of my balloon. You know what I mean? And that so many people that I run into the same problem, all it takes is one person to say something negative to you, and it's almost as if you're reliving that again. Is that what you run across?
Personally, I have never been molested, sexually aggressed, or anything in this way, but I mean, at all, nothing sexual kind of aggression to me. but I have had a near-death experience because somebody strangled me. An ex-boyfriend strangled me. It was fun because I heard a voice, you gotta, it's not your time yet. And I saw a boot. I keep telling this story and I'm laughing about it because it's crazy. Like, yeah. And I really don't want to re-traumatize somebody, but it's just my point with this is that what I have understood by listening to people who and working with people who have who have been sexually abused is that anything that touches us physically, that hurts us physically, related to our sexuality, anything about our sexuality is actually touching the core of our identity. So from my experience with clients, just from their perceptions, just by listening to them and working with them, my understanding is that this is the deepest wound anybody can have on this planet, because it touches the core. I think, and you tell me how you feel about what I say, or what's your opinion from your experience, but it's like it starts to separate you. It separates you from yourself. The trauma is such a kind of trauma that it separates you from yourself. And I think I want to say easier to cope. I don't think the word will ever fit, but people can find ways to cope by separating from their identity, because if they try to bring it back, everything comes back. That's why, that hole that I was talking about, that when somebody comes in, fills it up, and then that's like a magnet. I believe this is what happens, and this is what you mentioned about. This resonates with me in the sense of there's such a big space there that only if one thing touches anything on the surface of the beliefs that have been ingrained in an instant through that trauma, then the person remembers those unlimited beliefs, and it may be a loophole. It's very hard to get out of it.
Whenever I experienced it, it's almost as if I left my body and I was watching somebody else go through it. And then once it stopped, I guess I blocked it from my mind.
Yeah.
And I held it down for a long time. And somebody told me that what happened when I ended up in the hospital, it happens to a lot of people, where I had been in a relationship for almost 20 years when I got married the first time. And my first wife left me. And now I'm on my own. I got into another relationship. And then it was getting very intense. It ended up, we split up. And then it's almost as if everything got triggered all over again. My children actually found me in a closet, just curled up crying. And that's when I was like, I've got to get some help. I can't do this anymore. And then that's when I got diagnosed with anxiety, depression, and PTSD, excuse me. I think I cope with it a lot better. I say cope with it. I went in, I really got intense therapy, and now I try to help others so it doesn't weigh on me like it used to. And now I'm in a relationship where my new wife, she actually got me back on my spiritual journey. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I'm getting closer to God again. I used to be a preacher at one time.
Wow.
For about 5 years. And anyway, I won't get into that conversation. That's another podcast.
Yeah, it's when we go through, after we went through trauma, because when we're children, we don't know what we need. We don't, like, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't happen, and unfortunately we still need a lot of education in the world to know how we can protect children, and first protect them, and then if it happens to really support them afterwards and stop that. Because we are, and I say we because I take responsibility for everything that, I mean, I believe we are all connected. This is my belief. I believe we are all connected, and I believe that when it happens to another, it already happened to me. You know, like when the moment it happens to another, it's like at that moment it happens to me.
Yeah.
Of course, in a way, it maybe is like utopia, like crazy, but what I mean is this idea of oneness, that we have been connected from the start. There's no way we can disconnect from each other. It's just a perception we are separated from each other. And when we take responsibility for what's going on in the world, and we take responsibility for the fact that it's not an individual responsibility of changing things, it's a common responsibility of changing things. We need to help each other. How can a child help himself or herself when they don't know? When they are in that position? I mean, there's a lot of stuff that this world needs to know. But coming back to the trauma, especially when we have an idea, even if we block the memory, but if we have an idea that something happened to us, it is so important to ask for help and find the right kind of help. There are people who got help, but instead of help really holding space for them, allowing them to heal, to, you know, finding the right modalities to be supported. Some people could be friends, could be family members, could be therapists. They did worse. So this is something that all of us, when we work together, we're going to shift that in society, and everybody who has been traumatized can receive and would be able to receive the right support at the right time and the right way, and everything would be better.
So what is your approach to conquering these things?
My approach is always starting with the spiritual side. I believe that I'm saying it from my own experience, because after all these years of learning about different spiritual ways, about different modalities of combination of science and technology and spirit, like all the things that I've been passionate about, and hearing stories, practicing different things and applying in my life, I understood that the best way is to find what is suitable for the person. How can you do that? Well, you got to listen to the person's heart. What do I mean by physical heart? Well, that's one way. But if we're thinking of field, of energy, of consciousness, then I would say communicate with the higher consciousness of the person. You know, some people use the words higher self.
Mm-hmm.
I use the words higher self too. Some people use divine within. Whatever is the name you're using, it's this, could be God, simply God. Ask God what is suitable. And when I have somebody in front of me, like even with you, it comes natural to me. But if you and I were in a one-on-one private conversation, I would really need to hear beyond your words and what you consciously tell me. What is your higher power telling me? Because I may not be the right person, or I have to find the right way to communicate with you and hold space for you so you can receive that support you need. Otherwise, if we're just working at the level of the mind, let's say I think that you need something, and I offer that to you, but your heart, your soul, even your body would say, no, this doesn't feel right. So I want to make sure this feels right. For me, is listening to the heart. And what I have trained myself for, and what I have discovered about myself, is the connection with that intelligence, high intelligence in our hearts, because our hearts have a fantastic ability. And we can talk about the science or pseudoscience, depending on how everybody wants to call it, from Heart Math Institute, where they discovered that actually the heart has a field around it. I think it reaches, if I'm speaking in meters, I'm not good with feet, around 2 meters. And that actually the heart is the one who perceives first, and then the brain. So heart is sending first messages to the brain. It's not the brain to the heart first. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there. The power of the heart is fantastic. And through the practices that I've done, experienced, and I also, some of them I can also teach, which is heart imagery. I have reconnected with my higher self, with divinity within. And my process is to first ask guidance for myself. And when I have a person in front of me, ask their own guidance to tell me what they need. I respect that. We've been taught by, when I say we, I say with people who are like me, heart imagery teachers. We've been taught by our mentors that it is the first thing to check. What is the higher self guiding us for that person? Because that person may need to go through a lesson, may need to go through an empowering moment, and we should step aside. We should just offer a question sometimes, or simply listen. It's not always about doing, it's not always about doing with, sometimes it's just simply listening, and it helps that person, or giving an image. And my personal way to do it with people is really having a conversation heart to heart. I usually see images in people's hearts or from people's hearts, and my heart is relating those images to me in the way I understand. And then I reflect those images and symbols and words to them, and they go through an inner journey of transformation.
Thing that I see over and over again is it seems like we already have the answer inside of us, but we
Yes.
need someone to draw that answer out.
Yeah, to help us. Yeah, because we can get to that level ourselves. But because of my opinion, how the world is, which is always on the outside, going from inside out instead of outside in, or simply being inside, we need help to learn how to reconnect. So we need people to help us, to guide us, to facilitate that reconnection somehow. Sometimes it's just books. We read a book and then something flashes, we have a spark, and we start that reconnection. Sometimes it's a discussion with a friend, sometimes it's a dream. Everybody has different ways of learning how to reconnect with their inner guidance. And yes, we do have all the answers within. The question is, how do we learn that language? And I'm saying this because since I met my husband, I've been learning about other ways of communicating with yourself, or other types of languages that I didn't know. I am highly intuitive. I see images. I sometimes hear sounds, or I see smells. You know, I have my own way of perceiving and communicating with myself and my guidance. My husband, instead, he tells me about feelings in his gut. Like, I have this kind of feeling in my gut, in my tummy, in my this and my that. And I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't know. He doesn't see colors. He doesn't see images. He doesn't have dreams like me. I mean, he's so different, yet that's his way. So we need to tap in the way we communicate with that guidance, and the way that guidance is communicating with us. We all have something. The best part is when we have somebody who can help us find our own way.
My wife's an empath.
Oh, like me. Yeah.
And me, I'm like your husband. I get that gut feeling, and almost every time I'm right. I don't always listen, but
I know
always seems to right. Just seems to work out. And I also what do you call it? The auditory. I can hear things. So, but people are like, what are you talking about? Oh, I can talk about that on another show as well. When I was with my first wife, it seemed like from the moment that we met and got married, and through the marriage, she had kind of taken me away from who I really was. I totally forgot who I was. I was forgetting the things that I liked. I mean, yeah, there was things on the surface. I love sports. But back then, I loved to drink and barbecue and all that. Yeah, but I mean, the stuff that I really deep down love, she drew me away from that. And now that I'm with Michelle, she's drawing me more towards the things that I love in life. And, you know, it's hard to explain, but the things that I do enjoy, she tries to find ways for me to enjoy those things. You know, the music and it's hard to explain. Like I said, uh, I guess one way I could explain it, you know, I used to love comic books. In a
Yeah.
way, I still love comic books, even as old as I am. You know, and we had went and saw a movie, and I really enjoyed this movie. I said it'd be so cool to meet all those people. And it wasn't too long after that, she had bought tickets to go to a convention to go meet them. And I got to go to New York, which I'd never been before. I always said I wanted to go. So not only did I get to enjoy a place that I'd never been, but I also got to go meet these people that played these characters. I'm like, that's the stuff that I love to do. And then her oldest and I, we went to a convention together, and we got to meet the guy that played Batman and Robin on TV, Adam West and Burt Ward. And so I got to enjoy that experience with her. And it's like my world's opened back up again. You know, I had stopped going to concerts. Well, now I'm going to concerts again. And, you know, we're enjoying a lot of the stuff that I had just totally gotten away from.
Do you feel alive?
I do.
I think this is it. When I was listening to you, the word fulfillment came to mind. And that's aliveness. The more what I hear from what you're telling me or telling us is that you came alive, and all the things you're passionate about, all the things you love are basically bringing life, make you feel alive, are touching something that is aliveness in you. And this is, I recognize those things because it happens to me with others. Like, others bring that aliveness into my life, I bring it into my husband's life, my husband is bringing it to my children, bringing it, we're bringing that to each other when somebody's listening and can feel what we need and brings that thing in our life. It's wonderful. And I'm really happy for you. I am, as an empath and as a wife, I really understand what it's like to have that in your own family, to have somebody in your life who can do that for you, with you, and through you, sometimes.
She has a way of lifting me. Even when I feel down, she knows how to lift me up. You know, uh, people that are familiar with my channel know that I have a disease in my spine where my bones are deteriorating, and it's limited me physically. I had to retire 3 years ago. You know, if we do go anywhere, then it's in a wheelchair. And to most people, I could see how that would be devastating. I mean, here, my lifestyle has been kind of taken away from me, and I have to depend on others just to bathe, you know, getting in and out of the shower, getting clothes on, that kind of thing. But it's allowed me to do this podcast full time. And I feel alive when I do a podcast. When I get to meet people like you, who I get something from everyone I talk to. I'll always take a little bit of something, and it's gradually helped me to improve my life in so many ways. So I don't look at it as, oh my God, I've got this devastating disease. No, it's opened up a window of opportunity. And my point is, we don't have to let something like that hold us back. We can find something that gives us that joy and hope. You know, if this is what I have to leave as my legacy, well, I'm going to try to do the best that I can. If I can help at least one person, I know it sounds cliche, but just getting a message. You know how many times I have woken up and just felt like, God, I just don't feel like doing anything today. I'm miserable. You know, I'm hurting because it's painful. You know, I got some nerve damage. You know, I twitch, and sometimes I can't hold things, and it's hard for me to write. And I think of the burden that I could be on my family because they have to help me. And then I get that one message that says, thank you for having so-and-so on your show. It's really helped me. Or I, you know, even if it was, I thought I was going to end myself, and then I've gotten some new hope. It motivates me to keep going. You know, that runner that's trying to find that little bit of oomph to finish the race. That's what happens to me.
Wow. You know, I thought about two people. So just so you know, I don't know if I have ADD, ADHD, but all I know is that my mind always makes connections when I'm listening. And I do have the patience to listen. I feel like sharing this to you. So there are two people that came to mind. Les Brown and do you know Les Brown?
Is he an author?
Author and motivational speaker.
Yeah.
There's a video on YouTube with him speaking some years ago in Atlanta, Georgia, in front of 80,000 people. Very, very inspiring. That's where I get this idea of I am hungry that me and my kids could talk about. Really very inspiring person. I heard him last week. So because you and I are connected, I'm going to share that with you. It's half an hour where he speaks to somebody. He speaks on Facebook to people live. But that day, somebody had suicidal thoughts and was asking for support for his thoughts. And he gave a story of a woman who was who could only move her head or something like that. And when I really invite people to listen. I don't want to take time of this episode, but the point is that he brought a story of a fantastic human to another human. So he was sharing a story with two people, and one of them was somebody who got touched by this woman that couldn't move much, only her head, I think. And then the third person who was touched was this one in the live last week, you know. So it's a story in a story in a story in a story. It's like Inception movie. And it touched us all. I don't know how many hundreds were watching though that live from Les Brown, but for sure he touched many. And he really touched me, and I was crying too, because what you told me today, it's exactly what he was talking about, and it's very deep. It's very, very deep. And the other person, and the only human I know who goes through so much pain daily, every second, I don't even know how much, is from Toronto, Canada, Warren Falkenstein, if I pronounce his name correctly. He is a speaker. He's a motivational speaker. He has crutches. And I've never heard somebody going through so much pain like him. Like literally, his story is amazing. So if you want inspiration, somebody who's going through higher and higher levels, and like I have these two sources for you. It is, you know, I've been watching people like you, people who have a different experience than mine, people who are going through pain daily, because I'm learning from you. I am learning how not to give up. I am learning what it takes to hold on every day in a position way, 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 way worse than mine. I'm not looking, I am compassionate. So it hurts me when I hear you telling me how your life is. You know, I'm there with you. And in the same time, you and everybody who's going through any kind of pain becomes a role model. When I see you making it, when I see you waking up every day, no matter what you're going through, really living that next second and the next second and making the choice. I believe you're making choices every second to stay alive. And that is so important. That is so empowering to take that responsibility of one more second and another second and another second. This means so much to many. And I thank you that you share that with us, because In the last 2 years, and I'm sure you know, especially because you're listening to so many people with your podcast, in the last 2 years, I have heard so much happening, so many lives lost, not because of a pandemic, but because of all the circumstances that came all at once for everybody. And
Isolation.
it's, yeah, and it's going down. Like nowadays, we need much more support than ever. And we do get that support. Many people are waking up, fighting like you, to inspire, to be inspired, to share stories, to listen to stories. We need every kind of support we can get on all the channels possible because it's damn hard.
Um, I mean, I appreciate what you said about me, but there's a lady that I interviewed. Her name's Daisy Page. And if you get a chance to watch that video, please do. But Daisy, she had been molested when she was a kid. She had been raped. She'd been abused by her husband. And she survived all this just to end up getting a disease called MSA. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's kind of like Parkinson's. But it she's going to die. Uh, Her doctors gave her between 5 and 7 years to live, and when I talked to her, she was 4.5 years in. So it can be any time. But yet she spends her time writing and talking to other people to motivate them and inspire them, give them hope. And I think, gosh, if she can keep going after everything she's been through, I feel like, what have I got to complain about? You know?
Yeah. You know, we're getting to a close here, and I want to leave your audience with one thing that I've learned from Les Brown. He taught us that when people are asking, how are you doing? His answer, and it's related to the story that I mentioned in that live, better than good and better than many.
It's true.
I'm doing better than good and better than many. And this is one of the reasons why it really touched me, because it shows us to be mindful of where we are and where others are, and just hold that thought, and make it one more day.
And I hope people understand, I'm not telling my story for anybody to feel sympathy for me, because I'm happy. I'm, like I said, I got to retire early. That's everybody's dream. And I get to do this, I mean, I literally, this is what I have.
Yeah.
And I tell my story because somebody out there can relate to it.
Yeah.
And I want them to know that, hey, there is hope out there. So don't give up. Please don't give up. Andrea, do you have a website?
Yeah, so people can find me at andreapetru.ca. I put more and more resources there. As a one-woman show, you know how it's like. I do all the stuff, so it's going to keep growing. But you can find free resources in there. And please watch Kyle's episodes and let him know what really touched you, because as you can hear today, it really inspires him and makes him have a smile and make a move each morning.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate those words. And what about your social media?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook. Yeah, Andrea Petrut, ANDREAPETRUT. You mostly find my coaching Facebook page. I'm on Instagram also, Living with a Healing Heart. Yeah, I know it's long, but it's who I am. I'm living with a heart that is healing herself and helping others heal. So
And I'm assuming when you do coaching, you can do that through Zoom, or you have another platform.
yeah, I prefer online and locally, in person only, locally, of course, only in Toronto. Yeah, but yeah.
Well, I'll be putting those links in the description to make it easy for people to find you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you. And really, I really love your show. I watched some of your episodes and I see how you're doing. it's really inspiring. And I did see you love comic books, so
Yeah, that was my escape as a kid. So, but again, thank you, and I want to thank all of you out there. If you happen by this channel and this is your first time, please come back, hit that subscribe button. For those of you who are regular, you know how much I appreciate y'all. But I'm going to tell you again anyway, I appreciate you very, very much. So without you, I wouldn't be doing this. And until the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless and peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, and on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network